Hi, I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine. I'm a psychotherapist. I'm an author and an international speaker. I have hosted my own television show, Inner Voice, in a satellite program for 16 years. Whether it's premarital counseling or through their marriage, how to deal with children, and if they're going through a divorce, to teach them how to communicate better together. In actuality, I think my job is very important to work with individuals and the couples in order to make the most important relationship of their life healthy, which makes them healthy. On my Inner Voice show, I actually interview some of the prominent psychologists and entertainers in English, and I also speak to some of the psychotherapists who are Iranians and the artists who are Iranians, and I speak in Persian to the Persian population around the world, from Iran or Europe or Japan, Australia, all over the United States and Canada, because obviously I was born in Iran.
Where's Dr. Zeine? Dr. Zeine?
Hello.
You also have been trained in my specific methodology and techniques, correct?
Yes.
Are you willing to talk to her after this show?
Absolutely.
And tell her the step-by-step that she needs to do to deal with what I believe is an addictive personality?
Yes, absolutely.
The family goes through a lot. For boys who are becoming girls, the fathers of the family suffer. They will keep being confused. They look at all the childhood pictures that they've took of their son, and now they look at somebody who's standing in front of them and supposed to be their daughter. Coming up, I'm going to be talking to a psychotherapist about awareness integration model. You really want to know what that is, huh? Coming up. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine, psychotherapist, and I'm here with Nasreen Bafordari, licensed marriage and family therapist. We're going to talk about awareness integration model, a psychological model that I have originated, and Nasreen Bafordari is one of the first therapists who has actually learned and has been utilizing it with her clients. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting me. This is an honor.
Some of the major topics that I actually talk to my clients who are couples are first talking about sexuality. Many people don't know how to talk about sex. Concept of communication about it is something that I actually have to teach the couples and how to do. We talk about sexuality. Many people come into their sexuality in a very automatic way. We can go through the whole experience and wham, have a great time, but being with another human being, it actually takes skills. So becoming aware of every area of how we think, how we behave, how we feel, how we communicate with another human being in order to have an amazing sexuality is part of what we also teach in this AI model.
So much of our sexuality.
People don't talk about finances a lot. They don't have a system. They come from two backgrounds of how they actually have created their finances, and I have to help them create a system and have a great communication in how to follow the system. Another main topic is when they actually have children. Now remember, two people, two backgrounds, two cultures, two sets of values are coming in, and now they actually have to bring those together, and that's where they need how to communicate, be flexible, and really negotiate on one way of handling their kids. Duet, sometimes you guys are entering each other's space and singing together, and then solo. How does that experience for you?
The funny thing is,
in-laws, we have to deal with them. They're always there. They're going to be there. We didn't marry them, but they came with a package. So somehow we have to really, really work with them. And if I have to actually add one more topic that I've had to deal with a lot of couples and individuals is addiction. Whether it's an addiction to alcohol or drugs, pornography, cell phone, computers is one aspect that it really, really affects the person's life and in their relationship. With people who are going through recovery from addiction, they've had some sort of a trauma in their childhood. And when we've worked with the awareness integration model with them, clearing the trauma, the choice and the chance for them to relapsing is really minimized. I have been in the field of psychology for about 25 years. I started with seminars in ontology and psychology almost the same time. And I know you were part of the pilot study that we did, and in the result of that pilot study was that people were actually minimizing the depression 76%. They were minimizing anxiety 64%, and their self-esteem was rising about 43%. Now those are astonishing numbers.
You know, I wanted to go through it. I wanted to experience what my client would experience. So I asked you to work on me as a model for the group that was being trained.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you like what you see, you can see more on my website and my YouTube channel. And if you want to contact me, I'm on Facebook and Twitter. Bye-bye. Hello and welcome to the Inner Voice Show. I'm Foojan Zeine, and this show, as you know, is about all that matters to you, and we explore all that matters in your life from a psychological perspective. Today, I'm excited to have one good friend, Kirsty Spraggon, who is an author, who's a speaker, and she's been featured in TEDx, Fox Business, Women's Health, the Huffington Post, Forbes, and the Today Show. And she was actually referred to as the Australian Oprah. She used to have and still has her own television show. And she is asked to go all over the world to talk to businesses about how to stay in their passion, bring up their passion, and bring their passion into all that they do and to whomever they touch. And they are here, she's here, not all of them, but she's here today to be with you and give you all of the skills and the tools in how to bring up your passion and share that with everyone. So be with us, and we'll be right back with Kirsty Spraggon.
Who's going to get up and have another dance? I want to go in pumped up and excited.
We can achieve anything if we can overcome this. I think in this fast-paced day of digital communication and technology, we've stopped choosing to connect. A pinch of delusion, a dash of audacity, and a shot of courage. We have to be willing to be courageous. That's where the magic happens, baby!
Woo!
Music gets me in state. Music shifts my energy.
And then your favourite song comes on? Checkity check yourself before you wreck yourself.
I did it my way. I so shouldn't sing. Our subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not. So you have the power. So hard sometimes to be vulnerable enough to really look at what isn't working for us. Have you ever had one of those moments? That fear starts to creep in, that incessant voice in your head.
It's in those moments that magical things can happen.
Martin Luther King did not say, "I have a strategic plan." He said, "I have a dream."
Your desire to heal has to be greater than your fear.
But it takes big balls.
You're going to partner up with the person next to you. If you sit next to someone ugly, you should have thought of that earlier.
Maya Angelou says, "I wouldn't take nothing for my journey now." Because without those hard days, I don't think we'd truly appreciate the ups and the great days. I hope that you all get to the top of your mountain and you get to see the view from the top.
Well, here she is. Thank you for coming back, and thank you for accepting my invitation yet again for this program. We had so much fun the last time. And for all of you who want to see our interview, last interview, go ahead to my YouTube channel, which you're seeing at the bottom of the screen. Go ahead there and look at what we talked about last time. But now, let's look at this time, because I know you've brought a lot of different angles, which we're going to talk about. And today we're going to actually talk about business, because you have shared who you are and all that you have ever learned and brought it to business women and men out there. People who have their own businesses, people who are excited about creating a business, people who have had their businesses for many years, and somehow especially in the real estate world, I know in RE/MAX, right?
My background was with RE/MAX. I was in the top 100 of 120,000 salespeople worldwide when I had my career with them about a decade ago. I can't believe I'm that old. And, you know, from there I transitioned into teaching a lot of commission sales, so recruitment, car sales, financial planners. And then over time it became more entrepreneurs. And I mean, you just listed a ton of different places that people can be in, whether they've found their niche or whether they're tired and have been doing it forever, or whether they want to reinvent themselves. Even Oprah has reinvented herself.
Constantly, and I know you have reinvented.
Yes.
You're called the queen of reinvention
I
because
am a
you're
little bit.
consistently reinventing yourself from one side to another. But when we're talking about businesses, I know that everyone has some fantasy about what a business looks like before they go into it. And a lot of people, usually they go into a business because maybe somebody else had that business and they wanted it, or they've been working in that industry and they figure, I know all of the aspects, so I'm going into it.
Or they have a passion and a dream, and I think a lot of times they don't even think about it as a business. They think about it as a one-man operator or an entrepreneur. And then the problem is, as it starts to grow, it takes on a life of its own and becomes a business, but they don't have any of those business skills because they started with a passion and a talent, maybe being an artist or an actor or whatever it might be, a speaker. And then as it grows, they have to put on a business hat, and they're not normally ready for that.
They don't have the skills.
They have to develop them along the way.
One of the group that usually I deal with when in my practice, when people come to my practice, many of them might not be that fulfilled in the job that they're doing. And they don't know what they want to do. It's almost like, okay, it's not even about the business, like you said. I want to do something that I love. If I live 10 more years, 20 more years, I really want to spend that 8 hours, 10 hours that I'm at work being fulfilled. And it's very difficult sometimes for them, out of all the things that they've figured out, to be able to pull that one thing that they're passionate about. Because, you know, as we're growing up, people tell us what to do, what's the best industry, what you should be doing.
Or what's going to make money. And
what's going to make
people
money.
go there, or they've done a degree at university for 10 years, and they feel like obligated to stay in that niche.
Yes.
So I guess, you know, what I say to people is go out and experience different things. When I was 15, I went and did work experience. Did you do that in schools in the US? So I went to an old people's home, retirement village, and I went to a childcare centre, complete one end of, you know, newborn, and one as you're entering the end of your life. And I realised straight away that this isn't what I want to be doing. And then my father was in real estate, so I spent some time driving around with him, seeing what that work looked like, and that was what I ended up going into. So I think the first thing is experience lots of different things. Go and try different things, because even though you might think, I want to be an actress, or I want to be a motivational speaker, or I want to work as a surgeon, once you're in that role doing it, there might be one piece that you like about it and 20 tasks that you're like, I cannot live that kind of job. Or you might go and do something and straight away you realise, I'm not an office person. I can't be in four walls in a cubicle all day, every day. I'm a people person. I need to be meeting customers. So I think the first thing is do lots of different things, whether it's volunteering or work experience, and it's never too old for that. At 30, 40, if you still haven't figured it out or you want to change, try something new. Offer to go in and work with a friend for a couple of days a week, you know, find somebody that you know, or volunteer in the community.
Absolutely.
So I think that's one thing they can do is go out and experience things. But I also think that if you have absolutely no idea, there's usually something. Like speaking for me, I had entered public speaking competitions when I was 15.
How cool.
And so even though I ended up on this journey of real estate, eventually I ended up back where I began. So, and I hear that time and time again with people who are successful and have a passion, that they started that
Very
business
early,
at 4 and 8 and 12. So look back at the threads, look at what you're drawn to, and don't let yourself be stopped by, because often the first thing people will do is go, yes, but, yes, and go, but I can't afford that, or I can't do that because there's no money in that passion, or being a fashion designer is unrealistic. How am I going to ever make any money? Or, there's too many people, I'm not famous enough, or it's unfiltered. So without judgment, without the shooting on yourself, without the I'm not going to be able to do that, or the lack of belief, just if money wasn't an issue, if time, if success, if ability wasn't an issue, what is it you would want to do? What would you be drawn to do? And let yourself naturally answer that without the but and.
So one aspect of it is finding the passion and going after it. We still have a lot of the percentage of people who do not work at an area that they're passionate about because they have a family to feed, they have to survive, they haven't had the opportunity, or they really didn't know, so they kind of grew in one kind of an industry and never, kind of were able to shift it. They always sit with the wish of being passionate about something, or what they do is they work in an environment that they're not passionate about and then take on a hobby which they're passionate about, and that kind of like allows them to be fulfilled in that way.
Which can be fine too, because for some people they're just happy with it being a hobby. But I think if you feel called, if there's an inner knowing, what tends to happen is it manifests as deep-rooted unhappiness. Right. If you're miserable, if you're numbing, if it's showing up in other areas of your life, you had dysfunctional relationships, addictions, whether it's food, alcohol, sex, drugs, whatever's showing up. If stuff like that's going on in your life, it's generally because you're unfulfilled. If I look at my younger years when I was maybe, what you call off the rails or a little bit of a wild child, there was a stirring, a need to try things, find things, explore, because I wasn't happy and fulfilled. Whereas now, I'm the most boring person around because I'm just so happy. All I want to do is be doing what I'm passionate about and then go home and go to sleep.
So I know they've told me since you've become a therapist, you've become so boring, because that's all. Like I used to go to parties and just be the butterfly in the middle of saying jokes and doing all of that. And now it's more like I'm usually sitting somewhere and somebody's coming and still talking about what they love. It's like, this is not your time for work, but that's what I love. It doesn't matter whether I get paid for it or not.
And I'm happy being the person at the table chatting to one person, whereas before I had to be everywhere, do everything, be busy. And I think that need to have attention and be busy comes from, again, for me, I wasn't fulfilled. I was seeking, I was needing something more, whereas now I have it. So I think, it comes down to if those patterns are showing up and there's dysfunction, to look deeper and go, is this something really important to me? Otherwise, you're never going to be happy. And it does take courage.
It does.
It's not something that you just go, yes, there's a reality of I was in the top 100 worldwide. I was very successful. I could have lived a very cruisy life, stayed selling real estate and been retired by now. Instead, 8 years ago, I went on this crazy journey, sold everything, moved cities, went into a field I had no experience. People thought I was insane who worked with me. They thought, what is she doing? Does she have any clue? And, moved into motivational speaking and wrote a book, and now I've been developing my online show. And again, people thought, is she out of her mind? So I think that it takes a lot of courage. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to understand that it will take time. There is a period of time where you're not going to earn the same money. You have to go backwards to go forwards.
Exactly.
So for me, I planned before I left. I saved up a bit of a nest egg. I knew that I could survive for a period of time. I had developed skills in the other areas. So even if you're not living your passion now, if you have to work at Walmart or whatever it is that you're doing, not saying that that's not some people's passion, because being of service could be, but whatever you have to do along the way. I worked at Target. I worked in real estate, which wasn't my end goal passion, but it gave me the money, the ability to then survive and be able to go into what I wanted to do and to have the finances behind me.
Exactly. I remember I went to, I used to work in corporate, and then I went and opened up my own flower shop, and I had my own business. And then when I decided to become a therapist again, I took on jobs for $8 an hour.
And
in order to do that.
I feel like once you make that decision,
it's almost like that Target or real estate or whatever it is, the flower shop, it is all part of the bigger picture. So it doesn't feel so miserable because you know that there's a purpose, that this is helping you to get to where you want to go. And you're developing the skills. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
I learned. I mean, I know
without real estate, I couldn't sell. I wouldn't be a great salesperson.
Yeah. Like I know a lot of therapists who come out and they get their license, but they're not good businesswomen or men who are able now to carry that over.
Yeah.
And all of those areas that I did work in made this for me.
Well, and as a therapist, you have to have an understanding of people, life experiences. As a speaker, I have to relate to an audience. I have to have the ability to sell myself, to get bookings, to get busy. I had to have a story to share on stage. Who's going to listen if someone doesn't have a journey? So I needed the credibility of being one of the best realtors in the world, and the journey of that is what I share. So I think everything is like a tapestry.
Yes.
Every single job I've ever had has built my character, my strengths, my weaknesses, my learnings, my growth.
Question that comes up for me, which is, what if somebody is in a job which they're not passionate about, but they're still choosing to be in that?
Yeah.
How could they become passionate in an area that they are, although it isn't that passion that is drives them?
I just feel like, why be there? Like there's so, even if, so say for example you want to be a makeup artist to the stars, then why work in a mechanic's office? At least be in a makeup studio, even if you're sweeping floors, or a hairdressing salon. It doesn't matter where you're starting out, if it's the smallest salon in the middle of nowhere, but at least be in the field that you're passionate about. If you love animals and you want to be a vet, well, first wash animals at a doggy wash.
Yeah.
So I always think there's a way to be in a role that you're passionate, or in an industry that you're passionate, or around people who are passionate. Go work for a motivational speaker or author if that's, you're into self-help, or work with a psychologist. So I think you can at least be in the culture you want to be, around the right people, in an industry and environment that's going to help you grow and encourage you to get there eventually.
And when somebody is in their work that they're passionate about, how do they reinvent themselves? From what position do they come to consistently reinvent yourself, since you are the queen of reinventions? I'm asking you.
You have to, when I left real estate, I wrote a list of who are the top speakers, who do I need to meet, who do I already know that I can pick their brains and get some opinions and advice. If I've seen them speak, I'd kept their details, and I reached out and I emailed people. I read books, I hired the best coaches, and same when I moved into television. I created my own show. I didn't wait for someone to offer it to me. I just started filming. I learnt, my university was a year of doing interviews on my couch in my house. Finding guests, researching them, interviewing them, it all gave me practice. So just start doing it. You don't have to nowadays with, you can write a book if you want to. You don't have to wait for a publisher.
Exactly.
There's pretty much everything you could possibly want to do. You can begin on your own, or you can go and get work experience by volunteering.
So formulate, as I'm hearing you, it's like it's formulating first, what am I passionate about?
Yeah.
Then putting myself into that
Just get in
position
that world.
one way or another, into that industry, however that I can, just to have that experience.
Well, even before I started speaking, I would go to the National Speakers Association meetings and meet other speakers and listen to them speak. So there's always an industry, an association, a place to go to absorb, go into that world that you want to be in.
And after that, then start looking at all the skills that everybody has,
you have to
all
strategize.
the best people who are there, and you role model after
Learn
them.
from the people above you who've gone on that path already. Stand on the shoulders of giants, as they say. Write yourself a list of who do you need to meet, what do you want to do, and just start. When I look at my list of things, it was mammoth. I had to build the show, get on YouTube, do branding, get a logo. The list goes on and on. But you start at the beginning. You start with one, and then over a 5-year period, all those things happen. You don't need the website, the cut, everything day one, but start with the most important things, which is getting some skills in whatever you want to do. And I said the other day to someone, belief and faith and all of those, the spiritual side of the journey are so important, but you can't do it. You can't do it on talent and belief and faith alone. Without hard skills, without the ability to sell yourself, and without doing the work, without hustling and getting on the phone and calling people and trying to book business in whatever field you're in, you're not going to get there. You can't just oh, well, life is great and I'm going to manifest. And you have to believe and you have to have faith and trust in the universe and the process, but you also have to do the work.
So the being has to be there, but if the doing isn't there, just the concept of the being is not going to do it. So there has to be a doing in order for the result to get created. However, the doing, if it comes from the passionate being and what you want, then definitely creates it, but you need to doing, you need the action, and you
What
need
she
the
said.
skills in order
Be
to
and
create the
do
result.
together. Believe and then do the work.
Yes. Now, I know that the belief that you have about yourself, about humanity, about how you wanted to not only bring your own vulnerability into the space, but also allow others to be in their vulnerability and create a safety for them on your television show. And there was a beauty in what you created. Tell me a little bit about that, what inspired that concept of you wanting not only to share, but also allow the safety for others to share, and for it to be inspiring for other people who might have some pain inside of them and don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, I think that when I started, I didn't know where it was going to go. I think with a lot of business owners who find their passion and their purpose, you begin with something and then it evolves organically as you become wiser, as you trust the process, as you share certain things, and it organically becomes what it is. So when I started the show, I had the inspiration was my own personal story. I did a TEDx talk recently called "You're Only as Sick as Your Secrets," and it's one of my philosophies and beliefs in life that we make ourselves sick by keeping down shame and stigma and guilt around childhood abuse, depression, addiction, whatever it might be. And for me, it came in the form of herpes at 18, 19. I think I was close to 20. As a young girl, it was a shock to me. I didn't know. There was a lot of shame and stigma around. I may as well have been given a death sentence. I didn't understand that, what I now know is that it's the same as the cold sore virus. It's a pimple. For me, it's an outbreak once or twice a year. It's manageable. But at the time, I thought, how am I ever going to have a partner? Life is over. And so I hid this secret for a long time, and it really manifested as not having relationships and being unhappy and being anxious and stressed if I was on a date, and all these different things. And so at some point, a counsellor who I was working with had rung me out of the blue and said, look, I've actually just got a young girl in here who's just recently been diagnosed. Would you talk to her? And we had an anonymous phone call, and after I hung up, I just cried. I sobbed, and I just thought to myself, I said everything to her that I wish I had said to myself, and that I wish someone had said to me. And that was the birth of the TV show. It was, how do I share stories? Because I wish I had have heard from somebody else who was going through what I had gone through and been able to say, me too, I have gone through it and I'm okay. And this is how I got through it, and this is where I'm at today. And so after I did that TEDx talk, I was reached out. I mean, every day I just got an email from someone today. Every day I get an email from someone who has watched that who says me too. I'm one of the, I think it's now 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 who have herpes. And that's not even including all the other STDs. Okay. And they reach out to me and they say, I watched your video and I wish I could be as courageous and brave, and I'm scared to tell my partner, or I'm scared to have a relationship, or I'm scared to tell my brother or my best friend. How do I start opening up? How do I start sharing? And then I had a girl email me today that she'd seen my video a year ago, and since then she had started opening up in her world. Wow. And so that's really amazing to see that my story had a ripple effect and somebody else started sharing or healing. I've had people write to me and say, I finally went and saw a counsellor after 10 years. I didn't realise I had clinical depression. I watched, an interview you did on depression, and I saw myself in their story. So it kind of evolved. As I did certain things, I saw the reaction. And so recently, for example, having all these people write to me, I feel this deep sense that I need to give them more. I need, they're reaching out and they're thirsty for help and healing. How do I provide that? So then that will organically determine where we go next with the show, and the resources and the experts and the tools that we can provide. And so the TEDx talk really shifted my corporate speaking, where I go in and I talk to organizations about how to build great relationships and connect and how to get over mindset issues. I still do that, but it's also shifted. There is a new vulnerability in the speaking that I do. People, if you haven't worked on your heart stuff and you're vulnerable and all of that, then you're going to have dysfunction show up in your business world. And also with the TV show, there's a real shift to what I'm doing now is self-awareness and personal transformation, and people being able to be their best self, not just in terms of living their passion, but being honest and authentic and living in their truth. Because otherwise this shame and this stigma and these secrets are heavy, and they're a heavy weight to carry. And I don't know if you can ever be happy in other areas of your life when that's impacting it.
One of the things that you just said, which really hit home, because I work with a lot of business people, businesswomen, businessmen in different stages of business. And what you just said about if you don't clear yourself, if you still have hard stuff, if you don't know yourself, if you're not aware of yourself, that it all comes out in your business methodology, in your business ethics, and the way you deal with people, with customers, with money, money management,
or
everything.
You can also, what will happen, you're numbing, you're staying really busy, your business becomes your life. But the other thing I also feel is you know how that saying, you don't know what you don't know?
Yes.
Before, when I held this secret, and a year ago, before I did the TEDx talk, I thought I was okay. I mean, I was doing, had a running rate of $1 million as a real estate agent. I was one of the best in the world. I had success. But there was something missing. There was a superficiality to the success. There was, I didn't know it until now, but there was a deeper place to go. I'm more connected than ever before to myself. I'm more at peace. There was a lightness and a freedom that came the day after the TEDx talk that I didn't know was going to happen. There, my content and the impact I have on my audiences is deeper. I have more breakthroughs and more transformation. I had a talk I did recently where I received 100 personal emails from people afterwards on the things that they had done or taken away from it. So the impact is deeper than 8 years previously as a speaker.
It's like you've become authentic, and the authenticity opens up people to their own authenticity, and it's the same thing. And
others, it just brings in abundance, and I just feel like you don't know what you don't know. So if you're out there and you're thinking, is this impacting me? I'm still successful. Maybe it's not, but I was talking with a girlfriend. For me, there was an inner knowing that part of my journey was sharing that secret and doing the TEDx talk. So I don't know how to explain that. I don't know why I felt that, but I knew that the height of my success and the ability for me to grow with the TV show was reliant on me doing that work. And so I trusted that, and even though I didn't feel ready for years beforehand, I, would just feel nauseous even on the day I did the TEDx talk, I felt ill all day. And that was hard for me too, because intuitively I'd always been able to trust my body and to feel so ill and yet feel like it was the right thing to do in my heart.
Seems like there's an inner strength that tells you I'm ready to be able to move beyond this. And then as I feel that I've gained control over this, then now I can share it with others. And in that role, then my authenticity is creating others for others. But everybody might not necessarily choose to share it with the world. You might choose to share it with a few people who you feel comfortable, or share as much as you're comfortable with. But the point is that the clarity that comes with that, this thing doesn't have me anymore, I'm the one who has it.
And I think that is the essence of it, because for everyone, some people will only share it with one person, some people may never share it, some will share it publicly. Like for me, it was about making meaning out of it and being able to help others with my journey. But I think what's important is that it doesn't have that hold over you. If this is controlling you, if you're not able to, for me it was showing up by not being able to go on dates, having panic attacks at the idea of having to share this with a partner. That's not healthy. If you're not able to talk to those closest to you and have comfort, if it's causing you to numb or have an eating disorder or depression or addiction in some other way, for me that's when okay, something has to be done with this, because the secret's either going to control you and forever follow you, or you don't know it yet because the very idea is so terrifying of sharing it, but there is an inner knowing that that's the path to happiness, because once you get through that fear and that terror, and it's not easy. There are going to be people who don't agree with you sharing it, family, friends, people who won't,
because it affects them.
Yeah. But you have to do what you feel is best, and when you come out through that, there is a happier place.
There's also this part that we become more compassionate about toward ourselves, because when you're holding
humanity,
because you're holding yourself, that means there's a part of you that's judging you.
Yeah.
So the minute that you accept that part, and that you're no longer judging you, and then you're being compassionate with yourself, then it extends
judging
to everybody else.
Judging others. I knew there was a deep part of me that didn't know if someone came to me and said I have herpes, whether I would be able to be with them.
Right.
And I hear that a lot from other people. I don't know if I would date someone with depression or with an eating disorder or with addiction, and yet they have it. And so there's a judgment of I'm not just judging me, but I'm judging everybody else. And then when you get to a place where I am, I feel like my heart's not just fuller, it's expanded. My ability to care and my compassion's expanded. My ability to love and be more connected with humanity is expanded, because you're connecting. As I said, every day I'm hearing from people that are in so much pain, and you feel like you're hearing that me too. And so you're realizing that we're all the same, and there's such a universal, when someone writes to me who has herpes, there's a universal story. It's almost like I'm reading my own in theirs. And for someone who's been through cancer or addiction or depression, it's very much the same. Though all the journeys are different, there is universal things that happen. When you get cancer, there's certain things you want to know, you want to hear, you want to go through. And only someone who's been through it has that resonance, understands it the same way.
And when we're talking about also business, what I've noticed is that when people are authentic to themselves and bring that authenticity to their businesses, whether it's to their employees or coworkers or their bosses or all of that, you create an openness which people want to help you. They want to be with you. They open themselves up to you because you also feel safe because you're being so authentic. One of the aspects of this kind of a concept, when you're clear with yourself and compassionate towards yourself and any of the dark places that you have, and you're aware that bring the space you create with others, is that they come also in that space, because it creates trust.
Yeah, and they feel safe to say me too, to share, to open up, and that's why I believe the level of transformation with my audiences is deeper now, because because nothing's changed in the last 8 years. My content a little bit, my stories, yes, things grow, I get better, but the shift that's happened in 12 months, I can only explain by my letting go of stuff, my feeling of lightness, my freedom, my vulnerability, and my willingness to be okay. I love all of myself, and I'm willing to show all of me to other people.
Now, when we're talking about this type of authenticity and then bringing it into whether people have businesses or their sales, like even if don't have your own business, which you always have to sell, or you're a salesperson, where whether you're in a real estate or in any location that you are, and you are part of the system that has to create that trust and bring it into, bring the product to the person with the trust. What would you suggest in this realm of how to be so that you can be efficient in that creation of bringing who you are to the process and getting results?
So, sorry, you're saying beforehand?
Whether it's beforehand, whether you get yourself ready, and then through the process, who should you be?
You.
Who should you be?
You should be you.
Yeah. So explain that. What does that mean, being you? Because the you is all the fears, is all the obstacles, is all the fears that come up, and I'm less than, and what if this person doesn't want it, or whether I'm not doing well, or I'm not speaking well, and all those obstacles that holds us suddenly.
I think that in that regard, we have to become self-aware. We have to hear that dialogue. We have to listen to what we're saying to ourselves. Someone was talking to me today about when they don't hear from someone for a while. It's like we create this story in our head about what that means when they could just be busy. Whereas we might go to, they don't want to do business with me. Well, that just because they haven't returned your call in a timely manner? Well, their family member could have died. Anything could have happened. The company may not have the funds. They may be embarrassed. They may be uncomfortable. They may have the same dialogue going in their head. So I think the first thing is to recognize your self-talk. Hear what you're saying to yourself. Hear if this is negative, and hear what stories you start to create and start getting rid of them and just going, that's not the truth. I'm just going to persist and give him another call. But in terms of who we are being and how we're showing up, I think it's a lifelong process. I really feel like this journey for me, the greatest learning I've had is that this is an adventure. I love that saying by Sir Edmund Hillary, it's not the mountains we conquer but ourselves. And for me, that summarizes what this journey is. We often think that it's the journey of becoming the top realtor or becoming a speaker or developing our own online TV show or doing the TEDx talk. And all of those things are like the doing, the climbing, the walking on the journey and climbing the mountain. But for me, it's not the mountains we conquer but ourselves is really what it's all about. That on that journey, you become a better person. You become a better networker. You learn all those skills. You become a better friend. You become more vulnerable doing the TEDx talk. Each thing you do creates a better you if you're willing to keep climbing, keep walking, keep stepping. It's when you give up or you stay stagnant and you don't do anything different that you don't grow. But if you're willing to put yourself in uncomfortable situations time and time again, then you have to develop your emotional intelligence, develop your social skills and your interpersonal skills, and be tenacious and figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are, and ask yourself what's working and what's not, and what do I need to do differently. That ability to reflect on yourself constantly is the journey of the greatest adventure of my life. You know, it hasn't been about the things I've done and the places I've been. It's about who I am as a person that intrigues me the most. I get so passionate and so excited about that personal growth journey that we can become so amazing and inspiring and vulnerable and different in so many different ways. I love that.
I think that becoming aware of ourselves is the beginning of any aspect of the external results that we're going to create. Yeah. Because when I get to know my different aspects of myself, I mean, human beings are very complex, and many times we say to ourselves, oh, I know myself. And many times when I've asked people to go to therapy or to go to personal growth seminars, it's like, I know myself, I don't need to.
Yeah, so it's a block, it's like a straightaway, it's a shutdown. I know myself, so I don't need to. And well, you don't.
and sometimes
and if you do, why not push yourself? Why not be different? If you know yourself, do you like yourself?
But what I've noticed, Kirsty, is that we think we know ourselves, but only if we think of ourselves as an object. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, okay, I know this table. Okay, I've seen it all the time. Every time I come back, it looks exactly the same. So we kind of get to know ourselves as if that's it. You know, like we have a personality.
But what's inside the table? What's under the table? What's, you know?
We have one thing that we've done since childhood.
What if we painted it a different color? It'd be a different, you know, there's so many.
It's like we've done one thing in the childhood.
We
keep telling ourselves, but that's who I am. Yeah. And you're like, no, that's not who you are. You know, you an invention that is happening every single day. And with that self-awareness, you can reinvent yourself consistently rather than stopping yourself as one solid object that is just that. I know who I am. I'm that.
Yeah. And I think also part of what I learned when I left real estate is I'm not what I do. Mm-hmm. You know, there was a lot of ego attached to that, and when I left, it was really hard. It was like, oh my gosh, my identity is I'm this top successful realtor, and then all of a sudden, woo, we've got some fire happening. He's in the building.
I know it's outside,
and so. I think that, you know,
we're sharing all of our alarms with you.
All of it. I'm alarmed. I'm seriously alarmed. I think that, it's just constantly being willing to also be uncomfortable, to try something new, to put yourself in a different situation. When we're uncomfortable, that is where the magic happens, and we stretch and we're in a new place outside of our comfort zone. And that is where the growth happens, and we have a paradigm shift and a new perception or reality of the world. It doesn't happen in the safe place of comfort where we've always been.
It's interesting because the area and environment you just talked about, most people go into it as a fear and then call it a failure.
Yeah.
But also call it a failure. It's like, oh my God, I didn't get what I want, and therefore it's a failure. And there's like they get down on themselves.
So here's the thing. This is why most people don't get what they want. There's a model, the conscious competence incompetence model. So there's a quadrant, and you start up in the top quadrant where you are unconscious of how incompetent you are. This is bliss. We start something new, a new hobby, a new skill, a new university course, a new business, and we are unconscious, unaware of how incompetent we are at this new skill, and it is amazing. And then very quickly we shift to the second one, and we become conscious and aware all of a sudden that I'm really incompetent at this, and everybody's watching, and I have no clue what I'm doing, and the imposter syndrome kicks in, and I'm a fraud,
so now
and
what if someone
catches me? And so that's where most people give up and see it as a failure. They retract because it's so uncomfortable to be seen, to feel naked, to be scared, to not know what we're doing. I'm not good enough shows up. What if other people judge me? I'm really not good. I mean, when I first started speaking, I was on stage self-soothing in my close inside my crotch there, and I've got a video that shows this. It's not going to be public. It was humiliating, and I watched this and I thought, oh my gosh, I've done this in front of hundreds or thousands of people at this point. And the thing is that if I had have worried about that and stopped then and gone, I look terrible, I don't know what I'm doing, you know, I'm not able to transform people's lives, I wouldn't be who I am today. So you have to understand, so what helps me is knowing that it's a process, it's a quadrant. The next square is straight after that. Being conscious of your incompetence is to become conscious of your competence. You become aware that you're actually good at this, but you can't get there if you don't go through the uncomfortable state. So there are 4 steps in that model, Google Conscious Incompetence Model, and it shows you. And you have to go through the scary second step to get to the third. And so that helps me, knowing that it's a process, knowing that anything I do, part of it is going through that uncomfortability and having an awareness that I'm not good at it and being uncomfortable and embarrassed and afraid. But if I keep persisting and I keep learning and I keep developing my real estate skills or my sales skills or my speaking skills on stage or my television skills, then all of a sudden I become really great at this. But I might have to do, you know, Malcolm Gladwell talks about the 10,000 hour rule. You know, I might have to do 10,000 hours. I might have to get match fit. I might have to speak in front of hundreds of people until I'm actually good at this. For everyone it's different.
Right.
But you have to be willing to do that.
Again, putting yourself and having the courage and putting yourself into the courageous act in order to get the result and consistently moving forward. One of the things that I've noticed is that when we get fixated with one expectation, then we really feel down, while we could hold the goal of the end result that we want, but within the realm that we're going toward that goal, not hold the expectation and be open to whatever happens, because like you said, we're going to keep learning from whatever happens within the process as we get to the goal that we say we're going to get to the goal to.
Yeah, I think for me, even when I was in real estate, I've never had a financial goal. I do vision boards and dream boards. I'm a big believer in the power of manifestation, in trusting and surrendering, but in also doing the work. And for me, the vision has always been about what's my greater why, what's important to me about this, what's, you know, for me it's sharing a message with the world and helping people heal. Would I love it to be seen by millions? Would I like it to make money? Yes, but it's not the core why. So I think it's important that the goal is around what you're passionate about and what inspires you around it. And then yes, you need to set some targets and some KPIs, but they also have to be realistic so that you're not beating up on yourself. You know, set a challenge for yourself that you can achieve and then keep moving the goal. When I first started, 100,000 was a huge goal. The idea of making that kind of money was massive. To go to 1 million seemed, you know, unattainable and huge. I started off on my vision board. I wanted a new comforter for my bed, and then by the last year I wanted to build an orphanage, you know, and have a Mercedes. So you start with small tangible goals, and each year stretch yourself and grow and be willing to put yourself out there and be uncomfortable as you move the goalposts.
Talk a little bit about the vision board and the dream board. I love those.
I know, they're so great.
I create a lot of collages and put them all over the place, and I work with my clients, and I really think they work.
They do.
I do.
They do. Well, the research shows that our subconscious mind doesn't know the difference in between what's real and what's not. So if it sees something like you want a Mercedes, it believes that you've already had that in your life to a certain extent. So you still have to do the work. But if you see that and visualize it, it helps you to manifest it. So for me, it's things like, 1 year in real estate, I saw someone with the Hall of Fame award, which I really wanted. So I asked them if I could take a photo with that award. And then the next year I put it up on the vision board, and the next year I had that award. So it didn't happen just because I took the photo with it, but it happened because I was clear about my intention. My subconscious mind created and believed it. I continued to manifest and be with that goal and think about it all year. And I did the work involved and needed to increase my sales as well. So with my vision boards, I tend to look at it holistically. I want to make sure that there's stuff on there around family, friends, what's important for me. Like this year's my 40th.
Hey!
Yeah. So a big part of what I want to do is have my family meet me in Hawaii and spend time with people who I have relationships with for a decade and or longer. And so that's on my board. It was really important for me this year. Living in LA, friendships can be hard. Getting to time to actually connect with people and see them, you don't always catch up. So that was really important on my board. Having my own talk show, how's that going to look? Where's that going to grow? Where do I want to be seen? How many millions all over the world? So I put a globe on there, and I put some of the countries, and I put photos of the places I want to speak and the big audiences and the main stages. And so I made sure there's different things. There's things for travel, there's things for health and wellness, sexy bodies, making me work out, good food, some pictures of healthy vegetables, because it's, for me, again, it's not about the weight goal. I don't want to put a weight on there. What I want to put is things, pictures of what I want. So people looking happy and healthy and doing it in a really spiritual, fit, a good way.
And one thing that it has for me and for a lot of my clients is that you actually see it every day. So it reminds you and motivates you for those action plans, because obviously there's no way that you're going to be able to do anything unless
top of mind.
Yeah, you create the action plan and go. Many people, when it's not there, they forget about the action plan, or they're not motivated, or if it's not giving their result immediately, they're like, ugh, how do I, what am I doing this? The pictures
you've got to
just
have
brings
clarity
it.
and keep it top of mind. I had a client this week I was coaching with, and they had just started with me, and they'd spent a year with another coach, and they hadn't made any sales, and they had a beautiful, new book and all these glossy things coming out and branding, but they didn't have any results. So she wanted to work specifically around sales and results. So the first week she shares with me her goals and visions for the next 3 months and the next 12 months. It was a website and this and that, but not a single goal around sales. So sometimes we need to make sure that we have the right goals in place too, because it's great that she wants to do the website and that, but I said you're going to end up the same place you did last year, that you're going to have all these glossy, beautiful things, but no work. So make sure you have the goals on there that you need right now, because if you're starting out in your business, you're not going to get there. You can't afford to be waiting a year or two before you get results and sales. Right. So you need to be clear about, what do I need in the first 6 to 12 months? What do I need today? I always ask myself at the beginning of each quarter, what's the next right thing? So the next right thing for Kirsty TV, what's the next right thing for my speaking? And then I focus on that, and then everything else, the 100 things on the to-do list and the overwhelming list of things as a small business owner, comes later. But right now, today, what's the next right thing? That's my priority and my focus.
So what is the next right thing for you?
Oh, gosh. Well, for speaking, it's booking 50 jobs. I want to be speaking all over the United States this year. I travel a lot back to Australia still, and that's just exhausting for me. It doesn't, again, it's figuring out what works for you and your lifestyle. And right now, what's important for me is to shift my business to the United States and be doing predominantly my speaking work and that here. I want to speak more on personal transformation. I want to speak less on the corporate side. And, I want to do conferences and conventions where they are open-minded to helping people do their personal growth work. Awesome. And Kirsty TV, I want to get a network deal and a huge corporate sponsor. And awesome. I want to share a message with millions of people around the world to erase shame and stigma by sharing their secrets and being their best self and their most authentic self.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And the next
Yeah.
best thing for me is to have my model, Awareness Integration, to be
Can't wait to read that
going,
book.
absolutely have the book out and have it to be mainstream in all
See,
the psychology world.
That's what people need to do. By
Yes.
speaking it and
Yes.
saying it, we are manifesting it. So if you have a dream and you haven't articulated it and got clear on it, figure out how you're going to start saying it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much
Oh,
for
it was a
being with
pleasure.
me and my
Thanks for having
audience.
me.
Absolutely. It's a joy, it's a pleasure, it's fun.
It
More
is.
than
It's always
anything,
fun
it's
sitting and
just
chatting with you.
fun. So I hope that you will come back.
Of course.
And we'll do this again.
Yeah.
And thank you, all of you, for being with us. And until next week, create a wonderful world.